えー、これおまけ。でね、初めのうちに、てか初めの方に言ってたね、この文化的背景情報。またこれをただただ一緒に見ていくっていう、あの、ネバーアローンのおまけ動画になりますと。でね、解除してないやつがこの天気を読むとかね、解除してなかったからね、いくつかは、クリア後に解除してきたんで、これで今もう24分の24解除と。そういうことで、じゃまずはこれ、生きてる人、生きてる文化というのから見ていこうと。これね、どれぐらいなんだろうね。1個の動画が、どれぐらい、多分そんなに長くないと思うんだよね。まあ、だらっと見ていこうよと。基本的にね、このおまけ動画に関しては、もうただただ、見てる、だらだら見ると一緒にだらだら見ていこうと。そういう動画になっておりますよと。イヌイットの人ってちょっと結構有名、あれかな、寒い土地とかいうのあるのかな、関係。北極ギツネじゃん。この頃はまだ可愛かったみたいな。
Our values are something that bind us all. The importance of sharing with one another. The importance of
って言っ
spirituality
ても
and the connection to the
なん
land.
かもう
Our
割と洋
traditions,
服着てた
how
感。
we hunt, sharing
あ、
of
でもどうなんだ
stories
ろ
and songs and dances.
I'm
う。
India.
太鼓だ。
I'm from the Arctic Ocean.
イヌピアット。
It's very important to me. It's who I am as a person.
あれじゃん。なんだっけ、サイクロプスじゃん。X メンの。はい。いや、真面目に見てるんだよ。真面目には見てるから。あ、これ何だったっけ、何か話を聞きたいね。
Be busy, busy, busy all through the day. You get up and you just go right to work.
ちょっとあれだよね。黒髪だから親近感を持っていうか、そういう感じある。釣りしてた。
One of the older people would be just relaxing, laying down there and saying, you know, it'd be really nice to hear a story.
ほう。
And then just organically, someone would just start telling the story.
へえ。
Storytelling for the Nupiaq people is very important because it not only creates
口伝
that
的
sense
な
of
感じか。
community, but is a way to pass on wisdom to the next generation.
It was like TV, you know? It was just like, it was as good as anything, any movie you've ever seen. And the storyteller told it so clearly
へ
that it
え。
was just as powerful as any of the greatest movie blockbusters you've ever seen.
いや、それは言い過ぎやろという気もしないでもないけど、まああれね、個人の感想ですみたいなとこね。
that we might need to know in life, whether it was about how to find food or how to survive, or it was about well-being and the importance of connecting with people and being a good member of the community.
We all do stories. We all live in stories. We all tell stories to our friends. And they need to be told.
は
They
いはい。
need to be heard.
ほう。だ次と。よいしょ。クジラ骨
So
細
strip shot is this really beautiful method of art that's done either on
工。イ
baleen
ヌイ
or
ットの
ivory.
人
And traditionally it
は
was used
あ
to
れなんだ
tell
よね。ク
stories.
ジラ捕鯨してたっていうか、いや、違うわ。確かあれなんだよね。家族っていうか、兄弟みたいな、今の 捕鯨のなんかダメっていうか、そういう考え方っていうか、基本的に何かちょっとこう神聖な感じで思ってたって感じじゃなかったっけ？違ったっけ？どうだったっけ？ちょっと待って、違う？あれ、俺の知識が違う可能性ありますよみたいな。ヒゲか、今の。ほう。北極狐ね。かわいい。
When I was growing up, my grandpa had a pet white fox. If you're a good friend with a fox, when there's danger abound, they try to keep you from getting into trouble.
群れで行動する感じなのかな。
Foxes are like spoiled little kids in a way. When you let her out, she'd go.
なんか全然関係ないけど、地元の山道みたいなところにさ、一匹キツネがちょろちょろしてて、キツネってそんなにこの辺いないんだけどさ、もうね、なんだろう、尻尾がありえないくらいモコモコしてるから、どう見てもキツネっていうね、それを思い出しましたよと。いるその情報、トナカイと衣服。はい。あったかそう。
Caribou was it provided for us in many ways.
Our clothing in those days was made of all caribou skin.
I grew up wearing caribou pants, mittens, caribou skin mattress, blankets.
Some people had boots that were made with wolf leggings, sealskin sole bottoms. Baleen was shaved to make insoles. They kept us quite dry and warm as well.
やっぱ
But
あ
the
ったかい
caribou
ん
skin
だ。
clothing
見るから
was
に
the
あったか
best.
そうだもん
And
ね。
we would get as many yearlings as we could for our outer clothing. And for heavy winter,
北
we would
極
get
圏に住ん
caribou
で
in
る感じの
February or March
イメージある、
because
こ
the
ういう
hair
の
was
ね。
the longest and the skin was the thickest, and we would use those for our winter gear. With that stuff on, you could sleep outside in 50 below, and it wouldn't bother you a bit.
シラには魂があると。
Silla is the weather.
あ、天
It
候のこ
also
となんだ。
means the atmosphere. Here's the Nuna, or the land. And it's anything
ヌナって大
from
地
the
っていう意味
land
なの。
into the moon, the sun, the stars. That's Silla.
へえ。
It's a very spiritual, and we have a relationship with Silla. Silla has a soul in the
周り
same
の
way
環
we
境
do,
すべてみ
people
たい
in
な。
the same way animals do.
I think spirit helpers in and of themselves are really about how we're connected with things. And so it may be that there's a spirit helper that shows themselves as a bird to show you the way home, or it may be a spirit helper that actually decides to show themselves with the face and body of a man instead of their animal form. And so I think one of the things that's hard to understand is that it's not one way of seeing things, it's one way of knowing you're connected
あれってもうおじいちゃん死んでるの？
We've always
お
had
じいちゃん
that
ご
spirituality
先祖様的な扱いで
of
出てきたってこ
everything
と？
around us.
It's the
なんかノリノリで
interaction,
太鼓叩いてたようなイメージ
the
ある
air
けど
you。breathe, the ocean that you gather resources from, the rivers from which you gather fish, the tundra from which you pick berries, the animals that give themselves. It's all of that.
クジラだ。なんかちょっと前に旅路と仕事とちょっと前に和歌山でホエールウォッチに出かけてみたことがあって全然会えなかったっていうねあってみたいなどういうことかなみたいな船に乗ってクジラが見えるかもみたいな感じのやつ遊覧船みたいですね
spend the day there, rest the dogs.
何のために海に出たんだみたいな感じだったけどね。
And then the following day, we continue to the next place.
ほう。
We'd go to my dad's sister, who had a house at Dubai. They had a small sad house over there. We didn't have to do anything. We just visit with them, and my dad and my sister were glad to see each other, and they'd talk away while us kids played outside or go to sleep. By the time we get back to our home, my father would leave us with our aunt or with my grandmother, and then he'd start on his trips and go check his trap line. We were not into 8 to 5 kind of time, you know. We're in a total different kind. We're in ecological time.
なんかでも獣とかこう夜とか動いてそうなイメージあるけどね。コミュニティの鼓動。
Drum is something that's common to all
これじゃん、
cultures
太
in
鼓。
Alaska. All cultures have a drum that may have some stylistic differences or differences in the materials that it's made, but it's still in recognition of life and vitality. And the drum mirrors the heartbeat. And when you continue drumming soon, it will be in line with your heartbeat. Because that's what it's supposed to be, the heartbeat of the community, and it symbolizes
でもまあ
vitality.
まあ言うて音楽とか踊りとかってちょっとこう宗教的なところと密接な関わりあるもんね。これでも世界的に見てそうみたいな
And
ね。
to have one long row of all the drummers and to have that feeling of unity, everyone beating in harmony, the drum beat in unison, it's the most beautiful feeling. And to know that you're connected, you're on the land that you are connected to. And even if you go outside the community, that which is in you
めっ
comes
ちゃ歌っと
from
るやん。
this area. And it's the greatest feeling.
Yo. はっみたいな。いや黙ってようと思ったのよ。黙ってようと思ったんだけど黙れなかっただけで、なんかノリノリだなと思って。やっぱ国っていうか地域が違うと太鼓の感じ全然違うね。ちょっと恥ずかしくなってんじゃねえか。小人。はいはいはい。あと地底にいたやつね。
They're just like other people. They just happen to be very small
ほうほう。
and extremely strong.
These are stories that are common throughout Alaska. It's normally that people are size from your elbow to the tips of your fingers, and they possess superhuman strength. So they may be tiny, but they can carry a whole caribou.
And if you go up north and you
なんだ
talk
ろう。
to
なんかこう
a
自然
number of
現象
people
と
in
か
the
が
community, they'll talk about having seen the
そういうのを見出し
There's a place
Tan
at
daw ko.
home that we know, but we don't profess it to anybody.
But it's not like the boogeyman.
They can be mischievous, they can be ornery, or they can be helpers.
And every now and then, we might have the opportunity to see them, especially if they want us to see them.
The fact that it's across Alaska really tells you something about our history
あれか。
and how we interacted with nature around us.
水没したスマホボーラね。水没したスマホを米びつの中に入れておくとちっちゃい日本人が直してくれるあれ。ありがとう、ためになったよっつって。これあれなんだ。絡みつい
When we're out
て
whaling, sometimes the ducks start flying. And
こう
they're
当たると
good
どう
for
な
duck
る
hunting.
の？
You know, if you're a whaling crew,
紐が
you
絡
can't
みつくって
make
感じな
too
のか
much
な。
noise, so you can't use a shotgun for getting some duck soup handy, you know. So bolo was a really handy weapon to use for catching ducks. You know, the ducks fly in, you throw it up and
絡みつくん
dangle
だ。
up the bird, down they go.
へえ。ちょっとやってみたいね。漂流と出た漂流。何なんだっていうか。
Weirdest I've ever been.
でしょう
I
ね
was。12 years old. We floated out on a piece of ice while we were duck hunting. It was a bluebird day, just clear blue skies, and there was 3 of us, myself, my brother, and my dad. Next thing you know, we see this dark shadow on the ice. We look and it goes behind us. So we all jumped up, startled, and my dad, he started running. We got back to the ridge there. The ice had fractured, cracked, and broke off, and we were floating away. We were drifting. It was close enough to where my dad would have made it. He stopped and he thought about throwing us across, and if one of us was on the other side, we would be split up. So he stopped, and he just so happened to have a cell phone on him. 911 didn't pick up.
なんだ担当不在って。
That's the worst feeling in the world right there. 911 did not pick up.
いや本当だよね。
So he left a message because they record their calls. Once he had relayed that information, his cell phone died. That was the scariest moment I've ever had in my life. We were floating away and I thought we were left for dead. He kept calm during this situation. He's bringing out everything positive in this case. You know, I'm crying. My brother's.
こういう場合ってどうなんだろう。氷の部分とか食べたら真水なのかな。
Dense fog. Within a couple hours, we heard the chopper flying around, so they must have gotten a message. We thought we were saved, and then the chopper sound went away. So we lit some of the sled on fire. It's plastic. We thought black smoke in the fog would create some kind of marker. Chopper pilot had mentioned when we got rescued, you could see a glow in the fog.
危ねえ。リアルにそれじゃ燃やしてなかったら死んでたかもしれないみたいな。確かに。へえ、思ったよりも怖かった。分厚い氷は消えてと。なんかあるよね。絶叫マシーンよりも観覧車の方が怖い説みたいな俺提唱してんだけどさ、なんかね、じわじわ来る恐怖みたいなやつ。だから観覧車乗って上の方とかに行くとさ、そっと話し始めるんだけどさ、もしここでこの観覧車が急に止まったらとかさ、強風が吹いてこの乗り物に乗ってる観覧車の建物とボトって落ちたとかさ、そういう感じのね、ゴンドラっていうのかな、そういう感じのね、やっぱね言うよね言うよねっつって。はい、何ごめん、ゆうちゃんは話聞いてなかった。あれでしょ、地球温暖化みたいな話でしょ。
A malfunction in our whaling season is what it is. Actually, more than that, all seasons in general.
I think we are more scientists than more people will realize.
割とこういうなんかガチで環境とか目に見えて変わってるところを少女とヌナークとこれさ、あんまり地球温暖化を体感するみたいなことはないけど、こういうとことかだったら結構がっつり体感したりするのかもね。目に見えてやばいみたいな。
It's a mother. We've always known traditionally that we avoid killing a mother. It's always been sacred to us to protect.
可愛いけどクマなんだよなっていうね。でさ、この話ちょいちょいするんだけどさ、俺高校の時に地元の登下校というか。その道で帰ってたら道にクマが死んでて、 子熊だったんだけど、まあ基本的にこうその道からどかしてあげるんだけど、そのままほたっとくとまた跳ねられてどんどんぐちゃぐちゃになっちゃったりするから、まあ、どけるんだけど、めっちゃ重くて、多分筋肉質だからと思うんだけど、すげえ重くて、でうわクマって重てんだなっつって思ったら、その何ヶ月後かぐらいにはい次っつって、必要最低限のライフスタイル、はい、なんかテレビで九州にはもうクマはいませんっつって、野生のクマはもう九州には生息してないんですよっつって専門家の人が言ってて、割と真面目にはって思ったからねこれでもうよっぽどね、その専門家の人に言いたかった。いや俺この間子グマの死体片付けたけどっつっていうね話、多分今でもどっかね山のね奥深くのとことかにクマいるよ多分って俺は思ってる。以上ですみたいな。
We didn't just go out and kill and put in a freezer.
っていうかその辺にほたっといたらもうそこが冷蔵庫みたいな。
I learned from my parents.
It's all about relationship. I don't know. I think there's a lot of camaraderie involved, and just being out on the land or being out on the ocean. It's like getting back in tune.
I'd rather be out there. To me, once I go out there, it's the world that I learn from.
ほう。これ今何個目見てんだろうね。なんか割と真面目にどれぐらいの動画になるのか分かんなくなってきたんだけど、大丈夫かな？大丈夫だよね。
You get very intimate with the world. And over time, if you're living that life, you start to sense that everything has a spirit. There's a consciousness in everything. Everything is alive. If everything is alive, then we want to respect it. And if we're going to use it, we want to use it respectfully.
What I try to tell my nephews and nieces, you love to hunt, you have to take care of the animals that you catch, preparing the food and eating the food that you catch.
そういう感じだからあれなんだよね。精霊とかいう感覚が出てくるみたいな。
brings you life. It provides
なんかつくも神だったりとか、なんか山岳信仰だったりとかそういう感じ。まあ日本のね宗教とか仏教というかもう違うわ、仏教じゃねえよあれね。仏教はだって大陸由来だからね、神話的なやつね、日本神話系とかねやつも同じような感じと、生存のための分配、はい、分けよう。これあれね、取ったやつをみんなで分けるって感じね。
The ideology of the Inupiat is the idea of sharing.
Being able to feed the community, feed others. That's why we
パチンコでいうとこの乗り打ちみたいな感じね。
That's what you needed to survive, you know.
狩りが下手なやつとかめっちゃ嫌われてるみたいな。
Survives together collectively.
We just give. That's how I grew up. That's the way I'm always gonna be. Because of who we are, we always think about other people first.
If our people didn't share in in the old days, we wouldn't have survived in this harsh, climate environment.
悪っていうかこう煮られてた下顎みたいなの見えてたけど、何だったの？キングトード。
Big Diamond, Little Diamond, and King Island. And in those three islands are the stepping stones to get to America.
So King Island is this absolutely beautiful place off the coast of Alaska. And if you can imagine being on this really kind of rocky island that kind of shoots up from the water to these cliffs, And then all of a sudden you see these stilts,
実際なんかこういう感じなんだ。
They were built on the cliff up high because of the ice.
あれだよね、足場の悪い崖みたいなとことかに家を建てようと思うとこういう感じの建て方になったりするよね。
So it's going to pile up 50, 60 feet high. Structures are still there today, and people have returned to King Island. It's a growing community as the people return back to their island.
美しいかどうかはさておいて、北極光、これオーロラでしょ。はい、オーロラ。
When I was young, my mom,
俺の母親があれで、オーロラ見に来てみたいな、めっちゃずっと言ってるけど、いまだに行ってないけど、多分もう行かないと思ってる。てか下手したらもうパスポート持ってないんじゃないかなっていう気もするけど。
And then she explained to me a little bit later.
まあでも見てみたくはあるよね。人生観が変わるランキングで言ったら多分上位にいるんじゃないの。オーロラとあとあれね、ロケットの発射、種子島行きたいよね。関係ないけどね、このゲームとこのゲームとは全く関係ないけど種子島行きたいよねっていうね。ロケットの発射も、見ると巨大な人工物がバーって上がっていくのを見て、人すげえなっていうか、人生観変わるみたいなこと聞くときあるわ。夜の期間と。ほう。
In the month of November, there's no sun. So during that dark time, we travel by the light.
白夜の逆バージョンみたいな。
It was quite different. Everything was silver and black. Toward the horizon, we could see where caribou are because their body heat flowing upward, and we could see it glowing in the moonlight against a dark horizon where there's no stars. If somebody yelled, you could know who yelled from where the sound came from, but specifically where that cloud of their breath went up and it glowed in the moonlight. So that was a good time to travel. It was very surrealistic. And so things that were dark objects looked very close.
なんで過去形なんだろう。この人今もうアラスカに住んでないみたいな。そういうことなのかな。動物の精霊。はい。これは剥製ですね。
We are taught that there's no hierarchy. It's not everything else and then man, humans on top, and they're separate from everything. We're taught that everything is equal and that all the animals have a human form or can be seen in a human form. And so they have just as much or more intelligence. In fact,
これ
have a
は
lot
北
to
極
teach
狐
people.
かな。
And so that's how these transformations can happen. It's if the animal wants you to see it in its human form. There's a story where a man comes up to an ice hole and then there realizes there's another man in his parka that's got stuck in the net, and is just stuck like that. Oh, can you let me out? Please help me, And so then he lets the man out, but then realizes that was actually a seal. That was a seal man. And just because that seal wanted that help, that seal allowed itself to be seen in human form.
はい。転生と名前と。
We have our Dimi, the body, which returns to Nuna.
転生みたいな考え方は、精霊とかがいたらありそうな感じあるよね。
the spirit of our Atik lives on so long as man remembers that name. It would be hard to describe what happens after death. The feeling is that when our anak returns to Sila, then that may be reborn if the name is passed on to a new child who can then retain some of the memories of the original name.
And so it's not uncommon for grown-ups or adults to meet a child who has the same name maybe as their grandmother and say, "Hi Aka," which means grandma, "Hi Appa," or "Hi little mom," or "Hi little dad," because it's the traditional belief that the soul, is continuing on.
Humans are renewed and replenished over time.
まあ死んだら終わりって考えるとちょっと寂しいものあるもんね。
Are born and bloom and they die. Next year they are born again.
なるほど。人を狩るもの。これはゲーム内の話だよね。
So a recurring type of character in Inupiaq stories is the manslayer. And the manslayer is kind of this bad guy. And I think really what's at risk when the manslayer comes into story is the livelihood of individuals and the whole community. And so the manslayer is really used as a way to say, don't act only for yourself. Always hold the community in your heart. Oftentimes in these stories, there is one person that will stand up.
And what this humble person will represent, who faces that manslayer, is a return to order, a return to true living in the community. And it just takes that one person. It can just be that one person that can help to change everything. Because everyone wants to live a good life. Everyone wants to have a good community.
なんかほうしか言えなかった。天気を読むと。読んでこ
う。With regard to the environment, the blizzards have been one of the key elements that have impacted the survival of people, especially
そうそうないよね。こう日本とかに住んでたら天気読み間違えて死ぬってないかもしれないけど、勝手なイメージだけどアラスカだったら天気読み間違えたら死にそうみたいな。なんで命に直結してそうみたいな。
We look to the clouds in the sky to give us a direction the storm is coming from. We learn this as children by observing weather.
今アラスカに住んでる人たち、多分入植者の人たちだと思うけど、できんのかな、この天気を読むとか。クヌーサーユカ。なんだろう。
With the story of Kunuk Sayuka, told by Robert Cleveland, it's just a masterwork. It's a well-known story among the people. And in our case, of producing a video game that really reflects indigenous heritage, it captures the imagination, and it's something that you have a very specific
言ってみたらこのゲームと同じような着眼点というか、このゲームが目指してるようなところにいるってことね。
The blizzard man, it's like that is the physical embodiment
of
an element of nature. And so there's a person that needs to go up and take away that adze, that's chipping away that snow.
In that community, the person least expected is the one who stands up and makes the difference.
Humility is something that we value, and where that comes from is the idea that you are not the biggest thing in the world. And when you live in an extreme environment like where the Inuit reside, you're at the whim of the environment, of the climate, of the animals. You can be as prepared as you can, by learning from your elders that, you're not the biggest force in the world.
結構素敵な考え方ちゃうちゃうっつって。で、これで全部見終わりましたと。なるほどね。さあ、たらもうこれでネバーアローンでやってないことは多分ほぼほぼないね。まあゲームをするでもなく、ただただ動画をね見るっていうおまけ動画付き合ってくださった方がいらっしゃいましたらありがとうございましたと。ではまた何かの動画でお会いしましょう。お疲れ様でした。